Okay, so Magicka Nightblade in Greymoor. A lot of mixed things about this patch. I feel like the Antiquities system kind of throws a wrench into the whole this is your BIS build setup scenario, which is both kind of good and bad. If you're OCD like me, you don't like that, but I at least acknowledge that it's cool and it has some interesting potential. So right now you are looking at the bar setup that I used last patch. My my gear has changed a little bit. I'm no longer using Troll King because Troll King kind of got poop. And I do actually have another no CP build that I will mention, and I may do a second video for, but I will mention it in this video in case you don't want to look at another video. So for starters, let's have a look at the sets. So, only changed a little bit. I am using Bright Throat and War Maiden just as I was before, but instead of Troll King, I am now using Balrog. Balrog is kind of one of the best damage sets for PvP right now, especially since we have a fairly cheap ultimate. It gives us a nice pen, some nice damage, so that's what we're going with. If I did decide that I wanted to use, like, perhaps Malakath's brand of brutality, the Malakath ring, or the Windrunner ring, which actually does look kind of fun, then I would probably take Balrog off and put something else here whilst putting the ring here. Like, I don't know, get a Bright Throat shoulder, maybe? Now, the only issue with that is I'm currently using two dropped sets, so if I wanted to stay with 511, I'd probably have to move to a crafted set, which most people would say you should use New Moon's Architect or Acolyte. And you're right, I probably should, but I do not like the downside, and I play a Dark Elf. If you're playing a Breton, there is no reason you should not use New Moon Acolyte. I almost said Architect again. The reason I'm still using War Maiden is because New Moon is only like 80 more damage, which is almost 100. You know, it's not completely negligible, but I don't like the sustain debuff, and it's not that much more damage. So I'm still sticking with War Maiden. If I were to play a Breton, however, I would, without a doubt, be using New Moon's Acolyte, because it's just better at that point. In fact, even as a Breton, I might take Bright Throat off and put, for instance, Necropotence, but I'd probably have to do a couple more heavy attacks, and I hate heavy attacking. That's just a playstyle thing. I'm telling you what's best. If you are using a High Elf, I kind of also suggest using War Maiden, but you know, that's on you. If you're good at heavy attacks, then by all means use New Moon's Acolyte. I just hate heavy attacking. Another thing, they added a prismatic glyph of recovery, which adds 86 recovery of each type. And that is something, you bet your ass, I am going to be getting. I have always struggled with stamina recovery. In fact, I remember way back when I actually enjoyed playing Magblade, lol, I had a stamina glyph on my jewelry. I know Jack Daniels does that from time to time, but ever since, I don't remember when exactly I chose not to do that anymore, but it was a bit too much of a damage loss for me to stomach, so I just decided to suck it up, go with a little bit of extra max stam, and honestly, it's still really painful. So what I'm going to do is I have two Triune. This is part of the difference from last patch. One of these is Triune now, or two of them are Triune, and this is infused. It was Arcane yesterday, I just changed it today, and I'm going to put a Prismatic Glyph of Recovery here, assuming I can ever find one. You know, I haven't really looked into that too much yet. I haven't played a whole lot. I've only played a little bit. I did a couple BGs. So yeah, and a duel. A couple BGs and a duel just to try things out. Our skills will also be changing, so we'll get to that in a second. I'm still using BRP Resto. I feel like this is really more of an optional thing now. If you don't want to use BRP Resto, by all means get it the hell off your bar. If you don't feel like trying to get a BRP Resto, again, by all means, get it off your bar. You don't need it as much as you used to. It did get nerfed. It's still helpful and powerful. I think it was over nerfed because what am I supposed to do in the span of 2 seconds? After I cast something, I have like a 1 second cooldown before I can cast another spell. So I essentially only have 1 second of getting use out of it, and I can be stunned in that time and completely waste it. So I really think that making it almost no buff should be 2 seconds long. I feel like almost every buff should be at least 3 seconds, with occasional discrepancies here and there, but that's just my personal opinion, based off of fact. So I used to use a Magicka Absorb glyph because it was a little bit of extra sustain and it did damage. And now, because I am no longer using Lotus Fan, or as some people in my streams like to call it, Lettuce Fan, we are unfortunately using a shock enchantment. Yep, back to the meta. But it's not bad. I do feel like I do more damage with light attacks anyways, because this does more damage than a Magicka Restore glyph would. So yeah, that's great. I actually think I put... Did I? Oh yeah, so I put one prismatic on my belt just for shits and giggles. I didn't actually have to do that, but I did it because I liked my stats being around an even number, but then I threw a wrench in the works after I changed this to infused, so that doesn't matter anymore. Make sure you have a prismatic here, here, and here on all the big pieces. You can put it on the smaller pieces if you want. One thing I will recommend is that if you are playing a Dunmer, you don't have to stress having as much max stamina because you already have a little bit of extra max stamina. You want to have at least 12k max stam for playing Magicka and Cyrodiil. I recommend at least 12k, and you can definitely get that with a Dunmer, or not Dunmer, with a Altmer or a Breton, not Bretmer. So yeah, 12k is kind of that minimum. Now, I remember Gilliam a while back telling me that Magicka Nightblade abilities scale better with spell damage. I don't know if that's true anymore. I'm not sure if it was true to begin with, but it seemed kind of true back then. So I like to kind of balance my max magic and my spell damage. So I don't like to go underneath, where is it? 2k. I don't like to go underneath 2k spell damage, and I don't like to go underneath about 35k max magicka. I just feel like those two, don't go beneath them and you'll still do respectable damage. Respectable, not great. So that's kind of my borderline. Borderline, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I think you get what I'm talking about. This patch, due to the amount of penetration that people are going to have, the defensive meta, which, I mean, if it wasn't already completely shifted, has gone from resistances to health even more so this time. So rather than having protective, you're probably better off having healthy on your jewelry. For instance, I'm using Triune because it gives me a little bit of damage, a little bit of stamina, and a little bit of health. But the point is, like, don't be afraid to do this. I know, I think Nernstorm or Pain in the Axe, I don't remember. One of the other streamers has like 10 into health, and that is, again, that's something I thumbs up at. Don't be afraid to take some points out of Magicka and put them into health. Especially because health is just, you get like 122 points for when you put stuff into health versus Magicka, which is like 111. So, I mean, it's already a little bit better. I don't know why health scales so well with so many systems in this game, but whatever. If we go back and look, oh, that's weird. So if we go look here, you're gonna see this is the old setup. I used to use Lotus Fan. I am actually still using Soul Harvest, but if we want to change this up, now we are looking at a different build. I've got Life Giver. I put Fear on my front bar. I don't know why that's there. We'll just go over it in here. So Rapid Regen goes, that's not where that goes. That's actually where that goes. So that was just a graphical bug, I guess. Okay. Anyways, Fear on the front bar. I actually always preferred having Fear on my front bar, to be perfectly honest. This is actually the exact same front bar I used way back when I first started playing Magicka Nightblade. However, my back bar was drastically different. Like, instead of Race Against Time, I had Refreshing Path, and Path still did damage back then, and then instead of Rapid Regen, I had Cripple. You know, it was a weird build, but it worked really well, and I enjoyed it. Sadly, I'm kind of forced into using this, so I am not really using any dots. And does that bother me? Yeah, a little bit. However, I sat there on a dummy, and I know, don't yell at me for testing a PvP build on a dummy, but when you're trying to test the overall damage capacity of a build, it's not the worst thing to do. So I was there, and I tested how much DPS am I going to do to a target with Debilitate versus LA Drain. And LA Drain won. Like, I'm pretty sure it has to do with the fact that it affects all my damage, even damage from Shade. And it's, like, I don't know, free. That's a good one. It's free, and it lasts longer than Debilitate. I really wish I could use Debilitate, but, I mean, after I tried it on a dummy, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring this into PvP. Let's see how I feel about it. And sure enough, yeah, no, I genuinely feel that Elemental Drain is better. I do miss having the pressure that a dot had, but you know, if you want to put this somewhere on your bar, you could try and figure that out for yourself. I'm telling you what I am using. I have used Soul Tether here before. I really like Soul Tether, except it's kind of garbage in that it takes 0.5 seconds to cast it, and Soul Harvest only takes 0.4. Come on, Zos. What the hell? There should be no cast time for ultimates past like 0.2 seconds. That should be the maximum. Come on. As for the shadow skills, you know, we've got Shade, Fear, and Cloak. You can use Heal Cloak if you want to. That is a slightly different playstyle. If you want to use Heal Cloak, I recommend using Swift, because that is like 18% damage reduction that you're getting. You're getting, you know, the 8% from Minor Protection plus the 10% from Swift. Or is it 5? I'm pretty sure it's 10. So yeah, if you're going to use Heal Cloak, I highly recommend Swift, because then you will be a tanky badass. Also, remember, you have the Merciless damage reduction, but I almost never notice this because I almost always fire Merciless within 3 seconds after it being ready, because I want to get the heal off of it, even though the heal isn't good. So another mention of the healing mechanics with Greymoor, they changed it so that Battle Spirit affects your healing by 60% rather than 50%. Magicka Nightblade, of course, already sucks when it comes to healing, but it might not suck as much as you think. Strife does not double dip in Battle Spirit, so it doesn't take into account the healing reduction of Battle Spirit, just the damage reduction. If it did, then instead of getting like the 1k heal that I get with Swallow, I would get a 500 heal, which is pretty terrible. If you want an example of what double dipping would look like with Swallow Soul, grab Funnel Health, which already has a 50% damage reduction, and go in a duel and see how much it heals you. That is how much it would heal you if it double dipped. Now, the Merciless heal does double dip, unfortunately, but the damage is so high, the heal is not terrible. So I let that one go. Swallow, you're definitely gonna want to use Swallow. There's just no way around this. I'm sorry, you have to use Swallow. As for the back bar, siphoning attacks, that's pretty basic. Rapid regen, yeah, I finally caved. I'm no longer using Lettuce Fan, so that's why I have a shock glyph on my staff. You know, fears are stun, shade is dodge, dodge. Healing Word. Oh boy, so yeah, if you don't want to use BRP Resto, you could theoretically take Healing Word completely out of the picture. I would not recommend that. Because Healing Ward does offer you healing, albeit little. Like, you could, if you really, really wanted to, like, maybe put Harness here. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe some more sustain. You know, the cost the same, but this gives you some more sustain. I don't know. I don't think it's the best idea, but it's definitely something you could try out, especially if you're using a Max Magicka build. Race Against Time, the other option, which I actually tend to prefer, Phantasmal Escape over here. I tend to prefer this for battlegrounds, like deathmatch battlegrounds, because Dawnbreaker and all the other AoEs, it helps me not die as quickly, and because my healing sucks donkey, then this is already pretty nice to have that extra layer of mitigation. And then Cloak, you know, the ability that, well, Cloak is very similar to Shade in that you either love it or you hate it, but you never flat out love it or hate it. You know, it's always a mix of both. Partially due to they don't always work. Like, for instance, with Shadow Image, I can shade away, and I will still get hit with a melee execute when I'm literally 20 yards away from the person who casted it, and I'll still die. I'm not sure Streak has the exact same issue, but at least Streak has projectile absorption, so, you know, that would be great. Hope you're listening, Zos. As for passives, you know, just all your class passives, all the light armor passives. Medium, you want athletics. You don't need improved sneak, I just have it because why not? Windwalker is a definite one, mostly because of the 4% bonus to stamina recovery. Stamina is very important on a Magicka character. Heavy armor, so I have all the heavy armor because I sometimes tank for PvE, just when we need a tank. You don't want these two. You want Juggernaut, that 2% extra max health is quite nice. You want Constitution, it's a little bit of extra sustain. As for Resolve, yeah, if you don't have the skill points, you can skip that one. Doesn't matter as much. As for guild skills, we're not really using any guild skills, but I have used Meteor here, so, you know, Meteor's a good one. Structured Entropy is also a good choice, or the other one if you don't have a source of sorcery. I use PvE spell power pots, and I have ever since I started. That's what Kina said he used, and I was like, oh great, so I don't have to carry 5 different types of potions. I'm going to use PvE spell power pots, so I still use PvE spell power pots. Because we have Race Against Time, we want to have the Concentrated Barrier passive and Spell Orb. Spell Orb isn't quite as important, but Concentrated Barrier is quite nice, especially because this is our defensive bar. You know, just average good stuff. As for this, you know, I occasionally bomb, so proxied at rapids. You definitely want these, especially if you have decided to use Soul Harvest. When you kill an enemy with this slotted, you gain 10 ultimate. Combat Frenzy, that means you get 30 ultimate. Another debate that's kind of been going on recently is Soul Harvest versus in-cap. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory, Soul Harvest used to go through dodge. It was awesome. I loved it. But they changed it because it was a bug, unfortunately. And after that, every single Magblade went to using in-cap. And then they nerfed in-cap, then everyone back to using Soul Harvest. But now in-cap also has a stun again, so people are going back to in-cap. But not only does it have its stun, is it has a really nice sustain component, especially for your off resource. Like, as a Magblade, I can sustain my stamina a lot better with in-cap. And I'm just like, well, okay, I'm definitely salty, but what the fuck, Zos? I thought Magblade was supposed to be the ultimate sustain class, but it's obvious you don't know what the hell our identity is. It's not like we have our identity figured out either. This class has an identity crisis, and it has for about the past 2 years. If you want to fit Impale on your bar, you can. I don't, because I don't have the room for it, and I don't feel like trying to make the room for it. I do think in Battlegrounds, though, like, especially if you're trying to get Battleground Butcher, trying to slot Impale is not the bad idea. That way you can yoink kills off of people. If you want to put Piercing Bark where Ellie Drain is, go for it, but you're going to lose a lot of sustain. Oh, that also reminds me, I should mention that due to how much penetration everyone has nowadays, you don't need to have defending on your back bar. I still suggest it, but if you have ever felt the need to try something else out, now is the time to give it a shot. The only things that you should try are Nirnhoned if you have a crap ton of spell damage, Powered if you have moderate amount of spell damage and a nice amount of Magicka, or if you have max Magicka, you should use Powered. And finally, one of my favorites that doesn't make that much of a difference, but is nice, Decisive, for that extra ultimate regeneration. So yeah, nice stuff, all things considered. Now, because everyone got a certain amount of crit resistance, which I honestly forgot the number already, now would not be a terrible time to, you know, have 1 or 2 pieces of well-fitted, or well-shitted. And, yeah, I mean, that's basically it. That also means I changed my CP, because currently none of my equipment is well-fitted. I decided, well, hey, now's a great time to take all those points I had in Resistant, put Ironclad from 66 up to 67, and bring Thick-Skinned to 72, because I never had Thick-Skinned at 72. Yeah, CP's not changed that much aside from this red CP. So yeah, there's that. Just 15 in Resistant. You know, get that 500 roughly critical resistance, helps bump me over the top. And then you can put the rest elsewhere. You know, it's up to you how you want to do that. I definitely put some into Bastion. I do 31 just to get this extra passive here, but 31 is also the jump point rather than, you know, 30. So yeah, I do that. Here's CP if you want to get a good look at it, but it will be on Dots' website, so make sure to check that out if you want a more comprehensive look at CP. I am using the Apprentice Mundus Stone. I have not changed that for a while. You can try other stones such as Max Magicka. If you feel like trying that out, you're welcome to give it a try. Or the other one, which is the penetration one, which is the Lover. Haha, get it? Lover, penetration. Snoo. Yeah, so that's a good option, but I also like having spell damage because it boosts my healing. I also do PvE every now and then, and having Lover isn't always the best for endgame PvE. I mean, it's not terrible. You could use the Thief if you want to. I don't suggest it. There are other sources of crit. But yeah, there's that. Now, if you want to use any of the new Antiquities, my suggestion, first off, don't play a Dark Elf. Play a Breton or an Altmer. honestly just play a Breton. You know, take a ring off, put either the Malakath ring or the Windrunner ring here, and then take... Actually, let's leave the helmet. I like the helmet. Take your shoulder or helmet off, and put... So let's say I'm using New Moon's Acolyte rather than War Maiden, which is what I would use if I was a Breton. I would craft a New Moon's medium piece here, because this is a heavy piece. That way we are still getting 5-1-1. So, with that in mind... Do I want to play Breton? No, I like Dunmer. I like the max stam. I like the look. Also, just look at my character. Looks real nice. I've had this character for a while. I have an unhealthy emotional attachment to my character. We'll just put it that way. So if you want to use either Malakath's band, the Ring of Orc Boy, whatever you want to call it, then take a ring out, take a shoulder off of your monster set, and just stick it in here. A one piece of a monster set is fine. I would not use Balrog, actually. I would probably use something like Domihos, which gives you both max magic and max stam, because that's more useful than spell damage and weapon damage. You know, that way you're actually getting use out of the max stam, whereas you're not really getting any use out of the weapon damage. So yeah, just putting that part out there. I think that's more or less it, aside from my thoughts on the whole Malakath ring. So, do you want to use the Malakath ring as a Magicka Nightblade? Well, I don't know if it can prevent you from critically healing. That's the thing. If it can, then I absolutely do not want to use it. However, if it doesn't prevent critical healing, I do believe it is a viable option. Now, as a just as a Templar and as a Nightblade, we have a passive. Is it Master Assassin? Nope. 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 Hemorrhage. Templar also has a passive like this. It increases your critical damage by 10%. Now, in PvP, this is nice because everyone has crit resistance. Now, everyone has a certain amount of crit resistance now, so that means people are probably going to have a little bit more crit resistance or just a little more defensiveness overall. I do think that was a good change, especially because it means that people who don't normally PvP aren't going to get completely destroyed as quickly. I remember when I would run into anyone who was a super low level, I would try to be gentle with them and just light attack them to death or something. I don't know. I'd try not to kill them instantly as to scare them off, because I would like them to come back to Cyrodiil so that I can kill them again. That's a little selfish way of putting it, but it's also a practical way of putting it. And if they feel like they actually stood a chance, then they're less likely to just rage quit. You know, if they don't just instantly die, which is part of why I don't like gankers, is because when you instantly die, it feels like you don't stand a chance, even though you actually might. It's just not a very conducive gameplay scenario, but whatever. I digress. Now that everyone has that crit resistance, Malakath's brand is actually pretty good. However, if there are two classes that... Actually, three. I'm pretty sure Sork should not use it because Sork actually relies on it for healing, but if you don't use Crit Surge... First off, I don't know why you don't use Crit Surge, but I understand that as a Magicka Sork, your bars are sometimes very crowded, so maybe Magicka Sork can make some good use out of it. But the other two classes are Templar and Nightblade, and that is simply because they have innate extra critical damage. Otherwise, it's honestly not a bad thing. I would use it if I wasn't so OCD. I recommend people trying it out. Don't make a permanent commitment to use it. But I definitely think you should try it out. So yeah, there you go. There's that. As for Windrunner, I like mobility. You know, I like being able to walk around. The fact that it increases your movement speed by like 50% outside of combat is pretty awesome. 10% in combat. Can you imagine just how cool that would be on like a Stam Sork? That would be so cool. So if I do get that, I might try it out, even though I'm not a huge fan of, you know, losing that one set piece, but whatever. I'm gonna try it out. So if you guys want to try those out, I highly recommend trying these out. Now that these Antiquities are in the game is a lot more oriented towards what build do you feel like will work best for you. Because previously I could tell you, this will work best. Don't try anything else except for maybe monster sets. Nowadays, I can say, try one of these two builds, and then maybe put one of the Antiquities in. So yeah, there's that. give it a shot, see what you think. Let me know in the comments if you think otherwise, or if you have an opinion on it. I personally don't care that much about, you know, using it or not, but I do have access to getting it, so I probably will be getting it eventually, and I will let you guys know about my thoughts. This will have a written guide on Dots' website. It will probably be more of an update than a full written guide, because the build is kind of already there. Really just changing bars and, like, you know, monster set plus 1 ring, so really not that big of a deal. I also stream on Twitch. I am planning to stream more ESO this patch. A little bit. I really like this game, and I'm trying to like it more, so trying to be more positive. If you are interested in seeing me play primarily Magicka Nightblade, I will be playing Magicka Nightblade on Twitch, sometimes PvE, sometimes PvP, so yeah, feel free to come over and see that. If you have any questions, just feel free to comment, join my Discord and ask me directly, or you can even message me on Twitter, but no one has ever really done that. So yeah. Thanks for your time. Here's the build. Hope you like it. Have a great day.